The Rogue, the King, and the Devil in a Bottle, Part 1. Legacy of the Ghoul. In a distant era, in a secluded village, there lived a rogue named Picaro. Tending to herds and working the land bored him to tears. His dreams were filled with visions of great wealth, fame, and exhilarating journeys. The villagers toiled diligently in their fields, yet struggled to make ends meet. The king claimed the majority of the harvest, leaving them with the rest to sell to merchants who consistently tried to deceive and pay less. Traders complained that the peasants demanded too much for their produce, citing the challenging times of war, claiming that no one would pay such prices. Witnessing such injustice, Picaro resolved to teach the greedy merchants a lesson, while making some coin for himself. He persuaded the villagers to entrust him with the sale of their grain, if they didn't want to be taken advantage of. The people placed their trust in this cunning fellow and brought the entire harvest to the marketplace. At night, our trickster brought additional sacks half filled with sand and sprinkled grains on top. This way, the merchandise appeared to be twice as abundant. In the morning, the merchants arrived and started to negotiate. Picaro initially pretended to be dissatisfied with the price, but after some persuasion, he lowered it. The traders marveled at the seemingly heavier barley this year, yet the young villagers' flexibility and desire for profit prevailed. They bought all the sacks without a second thought. Picaro returned to the village, distributing a generous share of the earnings among the peasants. He didn't forget to reward himself. The villagers couldn't be happier with the success. However, the next day, the deceived merchants returned to the village, accompanied by guards, aiming to arrest the culprits behind this unprecedented scam. Bewildered peasants could only shake their heads, blaming Picaro, but he was nowhere to be found. Our rogue acquired a fine steed and new attire. By day's end, he was miles away from his native village. The fugitive crossed mountain ranges, traversed rivers, and found himself in an ancient forest. Nightfall approached, and he needed a suitable place to spend the night. The path narrowed, indicating a seemingly deserted area. Yet before him lay a moonlit clearing with the remnants of a tower. Not the coziest spot for the night, Picaro thought, but sleeping in a forest inhabited by nocturnal predators seemed even more perilous. Entering the enigmatic structure, the traveler lit a torch and discovered a room adorned with antique furniture and weapons hanging on the walls. Above a massive fireplace, Picaro noticed a portrait of a knight in iron armor with a menacingly pale face. "I wouldn't want to meet the owner of this castle," the young man remarked aloud, gazing at the painting. He found a wooden couch in the corner, spread a blanket on it, and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, the adventurer decided to explore the mysterious ruins. He was surprised to find that despite the building's age, everything inside remained untouched, as if people had deliberately avoided this place. On the floor, he discovered several gold coins, relics from the rough era of the first monarchs. "Not a bad find," exclaimed Picaro, deciding to continue his search. In one of the rooms, he found a large forged door, locked with a padlock. "This is no obstacle for us," thought the trickster. Pulling a bent pin from his pocket, he inserted it into the lock. After a minute of fiddling, Picaro managed to lift the lever and the door creaked open. Inside the dark room, there was nothing but a strange, opaque vessel in a wall niche. Picaro decided to peer into the dark bottle and uncorked it. At that moment, something repulsive leaped out. A small demon. It immediately latched onto Picaro's hair and began muttering in a squeaky voice. "Got you, lad! Open the sacred door! Quite the trickster you are! Now you're mine! Come, lad, to the underworld! You'll be my payment for release!" "Who are you? And what do you want from me?" cried Picaro, frightened. "Don't you see? I'm a demon. I've come for the owner of this castle. The local vampire earned himself a scorching place in hell. But he delayed his journey there. Instead, he outsmarted me, luring me into this bottle, where I spent an eternity. I don't know where he is now, but you will be a worthy replacement." Picaro figured out that if someone had tricked the little demon before, they could trick him again. "Hold on," shouted Picaro. "You're saying you jumped out of this bottle? But it's impossible. Not even a fly can get in here." "I've been stuck in this cursed vessel for 500 years. "No, you just jumped at me from the corner," laughed the young man. The devil turned pale with rage. "You pathetic mortal, just watch!" With these words, the demon instantly shrunk and dove into the narrow neck of the bottle. The young trickster quickly corked the vessel. "Yeah, buddy, I believe you now," chuckled Picaro. He placed the black bottle in his bag, made sure there were no more treasures in the castle, and set off on his journey. Several hours later, our fugitive trickster reached a valley with a small village. "I should grab a bite and take a rest," thought Picaro, making his way to the nearest tavern. The innkeeper scrutinized the guest and sensed that he was not impoverished. There was an opportunity to earn some money. Within minutes, fine wines and appetizers were at the disposal of the esteemed guest, and his horse was treated to fresh oats. When presented with the bill, Picaro exclaimed in surprise. Regaining composure, he inquired, "My friend, for this price, I could buy a whole cow." "Times are rough. Everything is expensive. The king is waging a prolonged war and has raised taxes," replied the innkeeper with a voice of distress. Picaro understood that this man had a particular weakness for money. "Agreed," responded our rogue. "Keep your coins, and here's an extra tip for you. I have plenty of money, and if someone helped me transport it, I would generously reward such a person." The innkeeper's eyes sparkled at this news. "Sir, I'm delighted to assist a clever and kind man like yourself. What amount are we talking about?" "It's 4 carts of gold bars. You see, I'm a treasure hunter and recently discovered the riches of ancient kings. There might be more treasures than I anticipate." With these words, he laid an ancient coin on the table, which he had found in a forest castle. The sight of the coin caused the innkeeper's hands to tremble. "Dear sir, I will gladly help such a wise and good man. What do you need for this?" "I need funds to buy strong horses and special equipment to break down the storage wall." "I will bring you the necessary sum immediately. Just don't tell anyone else about your discovery. Our village has many wicked and greedy people who would sell their own fathers for money." "I've already understood that," smirked Picaro. The innkeeper brought a hefty purse to the young trickster, who promised to return the next day with the equipment. However, as you might have guessed, neither the next day nor the following week did the swindler return. After a long journey, our rogue arrived in a large city. "I think it's time to stop here. I'm tired of running and hiding," thought our traveler, heading straight to the mayor. Seeing that the foreigner was well dressed and possessed refined manners, the official listened attentively to the guest. Picaro introduced himself as a renowned physician who decided to start practicing in this large and beautiful city. All his diplomas and recommendation letters would arrive tomorrow, along with the rest of his luggage. The mayor, not a young man and burdened with numerous ailments, was highly intrigued by the young doctor's proposal. The official promised him full support at the beginning of his medical practice. Throughout the night, Picaro spent his time crafting fake diplomas and letters with the seals of monarchs and scholars. In his village, he was the most literate person. The young scribe assisted peasants in drafting various documents. And occasionally, for a special fee, the trickster forged the seals and signatures of officials. The certificates delighted the mayor. He arranged to provide the young doctor with the best accommodation and a place to practice. It's worth mentioning that Picaro's grandfather was a rural healer shaman, and observing his work, the young trickster absorbed 2 things. A kind word heals better than the rarest medicine. And the wealthier people are, the more they trust doctors. Additionally, our cunning fellow knew that most illnesses resolve on their own. Armed with these insights, the young healer began his practice in the city. No matter how severe the diseases that patients brought to him, Picaro tried to calm them, instilling hope. The young physician claimed that every ailment was curable, and with diligent adherence to his recommendations, the malady would disappear without a trace in less than a week. To the robust patients, he prescribed a miracle elixir instead of breakfast and dinner. To the thin and nervous ones, he recommended consuming more meat and vegetables, and most importantly, washing it down with a miracle elixir. The doctor even prescribed it for joint pain. In reality, our trickster healer concocted this elixir from donkey urine, mixed with white wine, for a more refined taste. This medicine cost a significant amount, as the doctor claimed it contained many gold particles, water from high-altitude sources, and a secret ingredient of extraterrestrial origin. To Picaro's surprise, most patients genuinely recovered. When the mayor himself was cured of his persistent heartburn, our charlatan became the most famous and affluent doctor in the region. But this is by no means the end of our story. Picaro was about to face unforeseen and very dangerous adventures.